We're talking NFL draft today, as we do every day at this time of year in April. Prospect superlatives for the 2024 NFL draft. Best deep ball throwers, most accurate quarterbacks, who are the home run hitting running backs? What about the best specific pass rush moves and run stuffers in this class? Cornerbacks, all that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there that are subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up. We appreciate you for that. And, of course, you can subscribe to this podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. And today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. And right now, download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. I'd like to highlight good work and interesting work that's out there in the world, in the draft world, Matt. In today's episode, we're talking about 2024 prospect superlatives for the 2024 NFL draft. And an article by Matt Bowen at ESPN. You can go check it out. We're not going to, we're not going to go through the whole article because it's actually pretty long and it's really cool. It's very specific for different prospects and who does different aspects of the game the best at these different positions. And so it's going to be a whole lot of fun here. And I want to go through some of it and highlight some of these. And we may disagree. We may think that there's a different prospect that is better at some of these superlatives in the draft. But you brought this article up, and I think it's going to be a fun one today to talk about these prospects in a little different way than we have recently.
Yeah, and Matt does really good work. I mean, he's a former safety, smart type of guy in the league. Was never the most physically gifted for what I remember him as a player, but, really, really smart, read and recognize, X's and O's type. He's been at ESPN for quite a while. So this is quite an endeavor he took on here. I mean, he went pretty deep. So I urge people to check it out, but we will go over the highlights of it.
Absolutely. And you start with the most obvious is strongest arm, and we'll start with quarterbacks, and Joe Milton can throw the ball a mile. And I'm really interested where Joe Milton goes and who believes in Joe Milton, because the efficiency just has not been there in his career. But he goes to the combine and it's just like, this dude's ridiculous, and he's big and he can chuck the heck out of the football. I don't know what to do with him. I don't know who's going to draft him, but there's still a lot of potential there. And I don't think he's going to fall too far down the board, day 3-ish.
I am sure there's a team or 5 that says, boy, I want to get my hands on this guy. He's big, fast, super talented. Anyone can see it. I've heard Anthony Richardson comparisons. I don't see that. I mean, frankly, Richardson to me has a lot more ability, is a lot better football player at this stage. But in terms of throwing the ball hard, I think Milton might be as good as I've ever seen, like Josh Allen. But arm talent, throwing like Mahomes. Mahomes might not throw the fastest fastball, but his arm talent is, his fastball's great.
Right.
I would take May or Williams as the best arm talent.
Yeah, totally agree there. And quickest release goes to Caleb Williams on this. I'll run through some of them quickly.
Yeah.
Most accurate passer, actually, Jaden Daniels is what Matt Bowen has here. And I think most people would say, dual threat. And if you're a dual threat quarterback with the ability he has, he's a good deep ball thrower. Most accurate passer, that's interesting. And he did complete 72% of his passes at LSU last season, which was 7th best in the entire nation. And obviously, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, so he played some good ball. Obviously, last year it might be the number 2 pick in the draft because of it. But I thought that was an interesting one. I didn't necessarily expect most accurate passer to be Jaden Daniels on this list.
One thing you really notice with him too, if you watch closely, is he's very good at throwing into intermediate windows. Zone coverages where he leads his guy, or he throws it on his back hip on purpose so he doesn't lead him into coverage.
That crosser that's behind the linebackers in front of the safeties, and he's popping out in this one window and he hits it.
Yep. And that's hard to do. That's NFL stuff,
Best pocket mobility, J.J. McCarthy. Best field vision, Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels. Again, my prospect.
The worst is all the tackles with the F names. Fuaga. Yeah.
And all the names that we've been calling him have been wrong for 3 months. And so now there's like an N in Fuaga. It's like the Tonga Vailoa. There's an N in there. It's Fuanga, I'm pretty sure, is how you're supposed to pronounce that one too. We'll get to some of those offensive linemen. Best field vision, Jaden Daniels. Best deep ball thrower, Michael Penix Jr., even though he doesn't have the strongest arm. Most instinctive passer, Caleb Williams. Best decision maker. Now, these are some important things. Jaden Daniels. So he's the most athletic quarterback. He's the most accurate. Best decision maker. Best passing mechanics, according to Matt Bowen. That's a pretty good
combination
to work with, right? For an NFL team.
Yes, and I'm not taking anything away at all here, because I do think that, what I want to say about Daniels is not his fault. It's not a negative, but from what I've been told, we're going to talk about a lot of their linemen this time next year. Those two receivers are phenomenal, and they do a very good job of scheming them up. And I've also just noticed Daniels isn't asked to do as much as people think. If the first he's not a super creative guy. I mean, he's a little bit more paint by numbers than people think, because Thomas isn't open, Neighbors isn't open. Just take it and run.
Yeah,
they keep it pretty simple for him. I'm not implying he's dumb or anything like that. It's just he has it pretty good, is I guess my point.
It's just the way you play, and
right.
Time to grow, and if you what is the big one that everyone's talking about this offseason is pressure to sack ratio. Yeah, and
Penix is like the best ever. Yeah,
right. And Jaden Daniels isn't as good. And you look at someone like Justin Fields. Why has he failed? For that very reason, right? Yeah, and so Justin Fields would have been on a lot of these, most accurate downfield, right? Even though he hasn't been accurate in the short to intermediate, downfield is where he's really accurate. So interesting there, what teams are going to like which aspects of these players here. And I like best pocket mobility, JJ McCarthy here. That's like, think Drew Brees, like great feet. Like, Tom Brady had just an awful combine. You see that guy and like, this is an unathlete, but great feet, great pocket movement. And that's what we're talking about there, which is really important and sometimes more important than just being a straight athlete, a quarterback.
Yeah, I want to expand on that a little bit. And I always steal this from Greg Cosell because I've heard him say this for 20 years. He kind of talks about it like a boxer in a ring, like you're keeping your head up, you're keeping your hands up, you're looking downfield, but those little movements with your feet to make space for yourself. And some of the worst athletes I can remember, Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, are like the best at it all time.
A quarterback making an appearance on this list, everything else is top 5-6 quarterbacks on this list. Michael Pratt gets best touch and timing, which is really important in the NFL, right? So if you're starting to look, who's the next Brock Purdy? Maybe Michael Pratt out of Tulane is your guy.
Yeah, and Joe Milton, who we started this conversation with, would be dead last. I mean, he just throws Nolan Ryan fastballs. Sometimes he hits the mascot. You know what I mean?
And best off-platform thrower, clearly that's Caleb Williams in this class. And that's a lot of comparisons to
Mahomes and all
Mahomes and Rodgers for those reasons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's important, but don't get too caught up in the trick shots either.
Here's an interesting one. Best scrambler is Jaden Daniels. Best designed rusher is Drake May.
That's interesting. I mean, I think May's more creative player than Daniels, and scrambling to me implies not by design, but kind of like I mentioned before with LSU, I do think a lot of time his second and third read with Daniels is just to run. So they kind of are by design, but that would be considered a scramble because it was a pass play. But people sleep on May as a rusher. I mean, you hear Herbert comparisons. I think he's a better athlete, better runner than Herbert. He might not be quite the Josh Allen, but somewhere in between is pretty good.
Right. And I think a lot of Herbert comparisons really make sense with Drake May too, as far as like, okay, what was his offense in college? Reasons he could be a better pro than he was in college. And you're betting on the traits, and there's a lot there to like, but it was just, something was missing when you're watching the tape. And don't push him too far down your board and you might regret it kind of idea with Drake May.
I think so too. I mean, the more I watch and more I study May, he's clearly my number 2. And I understand there's some faults, but he's only like 20 years old. I mean, I'll live with the faults because I think the Dave Kingman thing, we were talking about.
Right. Next, we'll talk some running backs, offensive line, and some defensive superlatives in the 2024 draft, according to Matt Bowen. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. And so many of us so often spend our lives wishing we had more time. And you don't want to spend too much time wishing you had more time because then you waste that time. The question becomes, though, time for what? If you had unlimited time, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. However you need to get your therapy, whether it's audio, if it's video, when you need to do it at lunch, and you don't have to go running around town after work, before work. It's entirely on you and your schedule to fit how you need it in your life. So learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. This is a really interesting running back class, and I don't know what to do with it.
EP, I apologize. I have to interrupt you because you're going to like this. I meant to start the show with it, but today's my anniversary, 26th.
Congratulations.
Old married couple. But how do I do a good job remembering it? Today is 4-9, the 49ers. How can I ever forget? Works out perfect. Yeah. Happy 49er day to you. Happy anniversary to me and Nicole.
You just think about, what's the greatest franchise of all time?
Exactly.
That's Matt Williamson and the Williamson family anniversary. I love that. So congrats to you. 26 years. That's something.
Yeah, it is. So there we go. Let's get into these superlatives. More importantly, let's talk running backs.
Let's talk running backs. Fastest rusher, 4.33 for Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville. That one's pretty easy. I might say Jaden Wright, though, plays a little faster than Guerendo does.
I think he does, too.
He's listed as most explosive rusher. Hedging your bets. Good job, Matt Bowen, on that one. I like that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I could see Wright going high.
I could, too, but I could see the argument for any of these guys. Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, most elusive rusher. He tore his ACL. If not, would he be the slam dunk top running back in this class?
I get that feeling, yes.
Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, most powerful rusher. Really important because there's some good receiving backs. And I think if you're going to be a stud receiving or a stud running back in this day and age in the NFL, I mean, you got to have some passing down ability. And there's a few of them in this class. I like Marshawn Lloyd a lot. He's the most sudden rusher in this, but out of New Hampshire, Dylan, it's Laub, right? Dylan Laub out of
I thought it was Lobby, but I'm not positive on that.
It could go either way there. Out of New Hampshire, the best receiving back in this class.
I mean, he's the typical light-skinned Danny Woodhead, small school, but that's exactly what he is.
He's exactly that.
Slot, right.
We talk about how Lad McConkey's not Wes Welker.
Right.
But yeah, this is
Dylan is Danny Woodhead. Yeah.
He is Danny Woodhead, right?
You're right about Lloyd. I like Lloyd's explosiveness and suddenness too. That's a good one.
Yeah, and a former receiver too turned running back and was just an awesome running back immediately. He's really interesting to me, to be honest with you. He might be one of my favorites, especially if you don't have to draft him at the top of the running back class, even though he's not going to go too late either.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Oh, yeah. I would say that the Purdue kid is also like that. He's a recently turned wide receiver turned running back that I like quite a bit. He's not on this list, though.
I think the most important thing to be in a running back pretty much at any level, especially in the NFL, is vision and instincts, and that goes to Blake Corum out of Michigan.
That's a good one, too. I mean, I think Corum's going to be a successful, solid back that gets 65% of his team's touches. You know what I mean?
The guy who might go first at running backs, Trey Benson, he's got the best ball security, which coaches are going to absolutely love, right?
Absolutely. And he doesn't have a ton of wear and tear off his tires. I think he's got a lot of untapped potential as a receiver, too. So maybe he is the first back taken.
And all important for getting on the field as an NFL player at running back is pass protection. The best pass protecting back, according to Matt Bowen, is Marshall running back Rasheen Ali.
So I always talk about this on the Dynasty show, but any of you that play fantasy, and I bet there's quite a few of you out there, and it happens every year. It's week 3, and you drafted this rookie running back, and you're like, why aren't they playing him? He's so much better. It's either pass protection or fumbling. So pay attention to good pass protecting backs and good ball security backs for your fantasy teams too, because they're not going to put them on the field if their quarterback, can't trust them in protection.
Absolutely. Let's talk wide receivers a little bit here. Best route runner, Marvin Harrison Jr. Fastest is obviously 4.21, fastest ever at the combine, Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Most explosive, though, goes to Malik Neighbors. How about this? Because we're talking pass catchers, not necessarily wide receivers. Best seam stretcher, Brock Bowers at tight end. And
It's a good
Brock Bowers is going to go between 10 and 12, but no later and no earlier, I feel like, in this class. And it might be a
tend to agree. He could be a trade up guy. If I brought the Chiefs thing up with you, because I apologize, I've brought it up on other. If you were the Chiefs,
I haven't heard of
30
Chiefs, but I hate that connection for the rest of the league if something like that happens.
I hate the connection for the rest of the league. Like, how much would you give up for the Chiefs if he starts falling? 32 next year's first, which also might be 32 and more, maybe to get to like 15.
He would have him
and Kelsey.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
He would have to fall to a point where there's a team that really wants to get back. And it would, a future first at most for a tight end too. I mean, like, gosh,
I know that's what I mean.
That's a tough sell, but
their future first isn't worth as much as the Patriots' future first.
Honestly, the more I think about it, though, just kick it at 32 and take Ladd McConkey.
I kind of agree with you.
I mean, that's going to be in my mock, a little teaser there for my final mocks. McConkey 32.
I do like that better than Worthy for them.
How about D'Angelo Hardy out of wide receiver, North Central College, which sounds fake. I've never heard of North Central College. That's something that would be in a movie where they're just trying to think of a name for a school. Most versatile pass catcher, and he's a guy that gets compared to Deebo Samuel a lot. There's a lot of Deebo Samuel comparisons, and when you get the Deebo Samuel comparison, that just means you're more of a running back playing wide receiver with the ball in your hands. And D'Angelo Hardy is that. Look out for that late round possibility.
He was the first name here where I had to do let's do some homework on this guy. Little Post-it note. Look up D'Angelo Hardy.
Not only the prospect, but even the college. That's impressive. To be like, I haven't done any work on this prospect. I've never done any work on the college. North Central College.
It could be in any state in the union.
But that's the thing is that it's North Central of whatever state it's in, right? It's not North Central of the country, right? Probably. I don't know. Maybe it is. We'll find out. Division 3 football.
Of all the central colleges in Utah or Idaho or whatever, this one's most north. I mean, that's a weird title, North Central College.
Speaking of
almost like all the Michigan colleges, I think Western Michigan. Yeah, right.
The direction. I love the directional schools. Speaking of run after catch, best yak guy, Malachi Corley, who also gets those Deebo comparisons.
Of course, there's always a couple every year, and none of them will be that good, but that's how they're used. Throw a screen and
I heard Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl director.
Yeah,
who said they gave him 81 at the Senior Bowl because his comp for him was Anquan Bolden because of how physical he is with the ball in his hands.
I can see that. Bolden was Deebo a little before Deebo in some ways.
Yeah,
and he would lose a race to Deebo.
The league wasn't ready to use guys in that sort of a wide back role, but he came out and was just so strong,
physical. Hard to tackle.
But I think we got to pump the brakes on all those. I like Malachi Corley, by the way, as a day 2 guy, but there's some unique players out there, and you just it's more playing style than we think he's the next blank. Kind of thing.
Of course. I mean, a 3rd round pick out of Western Kentucky is not going to come in and do the exact same thing that Deebo Samuel does.
Yeah. Best at getting open. Pretty important for wide receivers. Our guy, Ladd McConkey. We just talked about going potentially to the Kansas City Chiefs at 32.
I often talk about Matt Harmon's reception perception, and he just put out the McConkey one, read it this morning, and it just affirmed everything I kind of thought. And, he studies it more. Like, I don't know if he gets to 32.
I love how deep he goes in some of these. You got the best ball tracker, Brian Thomas Jr. down the field. Best ball security as a pass catcher, so catching in traffic. 0 fumbles. in Legette's career. Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. He could be a kick returner as well. Legette is a weird player. He's a really interesting player. Late breakout age. Basically wasn't good until he's a senior. 4.3 speed, though, at his size. He's built like A.J. Brown. He's got kick return touchdowns, but he's like a little tight. So I don't know if he's going to be an amazing after the catch guy, but if he can catch it on the run on those crossers, he can split the seam and go to the distance. He's an odd prospect. I don't know whether to love him or think he's going to get overdrafted, but he's got a ton of tools to work with.
Yeah, a ton of tools to work with. I don't love the late breakout age. I mean, that's a real data point that is very telling, but it doesn't mean this guy can't be good. It's just this history shows if it takes you a while to break out, it usually isn't a good sign. But you nailed it. I mean, we talk about this guy a lot because A.J. Brown with Arthur Smith. I mean, he kind of has, again, it's like the Debo conversation. I'm not saying he's A.J. Brown, but if you use him in a similar manner, that's his best usage.
He's built like A.J. Brown, but almost plays more like his college teammate DK Metcalf with how he runs routes because he's a power player, but more tight and straight lanish, but he's got better after the catch than DK because DK was even bigger and even tighter, I think.
Yeah, I think he's tighter.
But
I see what you're saying. He's
not AJ Brown, even though he's built like him. He doesn't really play like AJ Brown.
AJ Brown's a lot better changing directions, in breaking routes. Like if you're going to run out routes to death, that's not Leggett,
Right. Yep.
I hear you.
That's best toe tapper. Tons of great superlatives here. You can find ESPN Matt Bowen's article. Check it out. How about best inline blocking tight end? We get all enamored with these, detached tight ends, but you still got to block in the NFL. How about AJ Barner is the one? I know that there's, Theo Johnson as well should be in this conversation. There is Tip Ryman should be in this conversation. There's some big, true Y blocking tight ends in this class, and AJ Barner is the best inline here for Matt Bowen.
There's more of them than you'd like from like the fantasy community in terms of tight ends that are going to get drafted. There aren't many dynamic receivers of the group, but I mean, this is such a Harbaugh thing. Michigan inline tight end that plays every snap. That's 6'6", 250. Yeah, he's going to be a good He's going to be a good blocker.
And if you weren't, you wouldn't have been on the field at Michigan.
100%.
Let's talk offensive lineman. Best anchor, J.C. Latham, 6'6", 342. You hit him and you stop, and that's pretty much it. Mims is the same way. He's a brick wall. There's not many guys pushing him backwards. There's some really big offensive linemen in this class. Most explosive, Troy Fautanu. I like this one.
I 100% agree.
When he's on the move, he moves like a running back, almost like vision, like he's going through the hole, and he's got that ability to get upfield and get through the hole and then hit somebody. I think that's why a lot of people like him at guard as well. I might like him he's not really a knockback player. I think I like him best. I want to try him at tackle. I know he's short, but his arms are fine. He's got great feet in pass pro. I like him at center even more than guard though too.
I can see that. Supposedly he's very smart too. The quickness, the initial quickness. I think he's more tackle-ish than Skoronski was a year ago because of the arm length and the quickness off the ball. And this is pretty nerdy, but his highlights as O-linemen go are about as much fun to watch as you're going to see. I mean, because it's like, wow, he's playing a different speed.
There's a ton of fun. I think Fuaga is my favorite player to watch. He just kills people in the run game, gets out on the move. He's so fun to watch. Graham Barton, too. Graham Barton, by the way, is best second-level blocker on this list for Matt Bowen. Graham Barton is on the floor. He's on the grass every single play. And he's either going to pancake you or you're going to get him and pancake him, or he's like tripping over the pile, falling over people. He's on the ground all the time. It's so fun to watch him. And I think he actually needs to calm down because he gets a little worn out in the fourth quarter of games. But I can see why everyone loves Graham Barton because he's just so fun to watch.
I mean, as a rule of thumb, if you had 32 offensive line coaches here and I said, this guy's on the ground a lot, they'd be like, oh no, hate that, bad balance. But some of it's just because he is putting people on their backs. He is so good. Some of it is, like you said, we need to probably reeled in a little bit.
Yeah, he
also is a great tester.
He's playing like crazy, fighting and scrapping for everything.
Yep, to the whistle and longer. Great tester too.
Next, let's talk defensive superlatives, pass rushers, cover guys next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. Locked On NFL is the promo code. Get yourself a ticket to the next Major League Baseball game, football game, college, pro, comedy show, concert, theater event, whatever it is near you, you need tickets for, you can get them and get a special deal on last minute tickets as well. And Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You can even buy tickets up to an hour after the event starts at Game Time for a ball game or a concert or whatever it is you're trying to get to in your area. So check out the Game Time app, killer deals on last minute tickets, and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Who do you think's the best run clogger superlative in this class, Matt? Who would you guess that Matt Bowen has on his list?
We're talking about the edge guys?
No, we're just defensive linemen.
I don't know that it'd be Sweat for me. I mean, really? He is really good at it. Maybe that's just the low hanging fruit.
I take it back. I used the wrong term. It's Devondre Sweat, but it's best run game enforcer is the way he puts it.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to cheat and look whenever you made me pick one. So I figured he's a good chance of him. Does he demand double teams as much? I don't know. I've kind of soured on him a little bit. It's not just because of DUI, but I just don't know that he controls the line of scrimmage as much as people think.
366 pounds. He didn't weigh in at the Senior Bowl, which is kind of unheard of.
Right. And the only one.
And then showed up at the combine at 366 pounds, which tells me he's 370 because he's trying to get down.
Right.
And that was his get down weight was 366 pounds at the combine.
Like, I think there's a 0% chance he shows up at rookie minicamp at 350.
Yeah, it's not going to continue going that direction for sure.
No way. To me, I love size. I love physicality, the trenches. I think he's too big. I think he is.
Quickest first step. I totally agree here. The get off for Chop Robinson is insane. I don't know how his sack production was so low because he beats guys a lot in college and surprisingly willing to set the edge, even though he's an undersized guy. Ridiculous first step for Chop Robinson. I would want Chop Robinson. If I was a D-line coach and I saw that first step and saw his athletic ability, I'd say, let me coach up some moves and we're going to have a ball player there.
I bet your Niners would love him. Use them in a rotation and get him one of the best D-line coaches we can remember.
Yeah, that wide nine, just line him up really wide and get off is huge for Chris Kosaric with the 49ers.
Because he does play hard.
Yeah,
he does play the run, even though he's got a little bit short arms.
Late one, pick 31. Yeah, I can see it. I don't know if he'll get that. That would be a nice fit for the 49ers. How about the fastest closing speed? Dallas Turner is ridiculously fast closing to that quarterback. Another guy where it's like, all right, let's get him in here. He's got a few things to work on, but when he does, look out.
Yeah, I can't argue that at all. I mean, I think that's what he does best, be an athlete, burst, that type of stuff.
Pursuit range, Jalix Hunt. I've not done any tape work out of
I have.
Christian Edge, Jalix Hunt. Talk to me about his scouting report. Best pursuit range?
Insane athlete that just is like the fastest guy on the field. I mean, I've watched highlights. I've done some studies of him. I have not gone back and watched 8 Houston Christian games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that much of a lunatic. But, I mean, again, a lot of the stuff Steeler scouting because they're not going to draft an edge high. But I think in the 5th round, they might take a project like this guy that is going to be awesome on special teams. I mean, he has insane measurables.
And by the way, that's what you name your college. I don't know anything about it. I know it's in Houston. I know it's a Christian school. Houston Christian.
I don't care if it's north, south, central, whatever. Right.
I don't care about the direction of it inside of its particular state. Best motor, Muhammad Kamara, undersized edge rusher that I don't know what to do with. I wonder if teams are going to know what to do with him, but fun tape to watch for sure and super productive, 30 sacks in college. How about Marshawn Nealand as the best bull rush? Problem with him out of Western Michigan, he's only bull rush.
Yeah. I don't know what quite to do with him, to be very honest with you. I think he could fall a little bit more than people think.
Jerzon, Johnny Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois, is the best interior pass rusher. Totally agree there. Best edge setter. I also agree with Darius Robinson. Dude is big and strong, 35-inch arms, long hands, strong hands. He controls defensive tackles and then disengages, unbelievably great hands and long arms. And yeah, he's the guy you want setting the edge. Darius Robinson out of Missouri.
As much as anyone on this list, I mean, he has sledgehammers his hands. I mean, he hits you with those paws. Boom. He stuns you. I just worry a little bit because it used to be tweener was a bad word. Now they're versatile, but he was mostly a true edge. And I don't think at 285, he's an edge at the next level. So he kind of might have to reinvent himself.
So yeah, it's versatile versus tweener. And I love that you said that. And it's so important. I think he is versatile because I think he's got a role no matter what down it is and no matter what distance it is. He might have trouble chasing down Jaden Daniels on the edge on third downs, but on third downs, I kind of want him inside anyway. Yeah. But he can pass rush from the outside. He can collapse the pocket. He can disengage from blocks. He's a good run and pass, and then he can give you a little something as an interior rusher. I do think he's versatile and not a tweener. A tweener is someone who doesn't fit on either side. And in either role, I think he fits in both roles.
So I think we all know that Mel Kiper's pretty well wired in. He's been doing this my entire life. And I was listening to his podcast just the other day, and I think he's going to put out his final mock here this week. And he just flat out said, he said, folks, Darius Robinson is going in the first round. And just said it like 3 times in a row. I'm like, I believe you then. Okay.
Right. Okay. Well, there can only be 32 of them. And I feel like I've heard that 32 times. So we'll see who's the most.
I think I've heard it like 60 times. All right.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Best tackler, Junior Golson out of Michigan. Most instinctive at the second level, Peyton Wilson, linebacker out of NC State. Best second level blitzer, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. We've got best second level range is Edgerrin Cooper. So kind of one of each for all these linebackers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like when we previewed linebackers, there's 4 or 5 that are on top of everybody's list, and they all kind of have their own special skill,
Matt Bowen, being a former DB, has some really in-depth superlatives for the secondary, which I like. Best closing speed and coverage, Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. Best pedal transition, Terrion Arnold from Alabama. Some teach tape stuff from Terrion Arnold as a pretty young prospect at Alabama, a well-coached guy. Best backfield vision, Max Melton, corner out of Rutgers. A lot of really good ones. Physical and coverage, Rakestraw out of Missouri. That's a good and bad one because you don't want to be getting flagged at the next level either because they'll be throwing a lot more flags. That's another thing I see with offensive linemen. Offensive linemen in college, bear hug guys, get their hands on the outside. It's like, I'm watching guys, I'm like, that's going to be a flag all day. You got to clean up that hand placement.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a couple things. We talked about like protection for running backs, certainly being too physical as a corner. I mean, those things you got to change your playing style a little bit.
Best in the underneath zones, Cole Bishop, safety out of Utah. Best press man technique is Kool-Aid. Again, we're talking technique. You're going to look to the Alabama corners, Kool-Aid and Terrion Arnold. Best ball hawk, Cooper DeJean. Best run support from the outside, Kamari Lasser, corner from Georgia. So many good ones here. How about the best center field range? Pretty important if you're going to go single high. That's Kalen Bullock, safety out of USC.
I think that's all he does well, though. I mean, like, he's been on all these lists for years. Like, he was going to be the first safety taken, and I don't think he likes coming down to the box or tackling much. I think he's like a single high only, and I know that's a hard skill to find, but that's also limiting today. I mean, you got to play the slot. You got to do more things as a safety.
We got to wrap this up, and of course, you can go find all of them. There's so many more at ESPN. Matt Bowen's list of superlatives for the 2024 class. One of the ones that just stands out like a sore thumb to me is best run support is Malik Mustafa, Wake Forest.
Oh, you talk about a fun highlight tape. That guy blows people up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. He's rocked up. I mean, he is solid, and he thumps guys. So fun watching him get downhill. Come on, Matt Bowen. Matt Bowen, you got to go deeper with the kicking game. He just goes best punter, best kicker.
Yeah, at least he had best returner too. So
best returner, yeah. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa gets the best return. So
I wonder, I mean, DeJean versus Arnold versus Mitchell with today's kickoff rules, might he get the bump? Just because he has a little something else, one more club in his bag.
Interesting. It might be a tiebreaker if he is tied with the other stuff, guys, for sure. All right, those are some of the superlatives. And
there's a lot
there. Yeah, love it. There's good stuff there. And I like paying attention to some of the folks that are doing cool work and interesting work. And later on this week, we've got the Beast dropping from Dane Brugler. We've got Mel Kiper's final mock, is it? Or
that's what he said. Yeah, he says he's going to do a 2-round final one.
I think he does one the day of, doesn't he? Most of these guys do the day of that has
he said he's out on that. He hates that. He told him I'm not doing that anymore.
Okay. All right. So it's
important. It is that kind of cash.
Guys that are plugged in, let's see where they're ranking guys. I think we can learn a lot as well. well later on in the week. And of course, our evaluations for all these prospects, mock drafts, and your questions. It's mailbag tomorrow on Wednesday. Get those questions in on Twitter at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL, or drop a question in the YouTube comments. Matt and I back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.